Carl and Brendan here from Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life, gbhbl.com for short. The hats, the jumpers, the lights, you know what time of year it is. It is, of course, Christmas time, the festive season. And that, of course, brings with it festive-related track by tracks. Still plenty to do. We only do like 2 or 3 a year. So there's always plenty to do, even if no one's really releasing anything. Basically, Majestica fucked everything 3 years ago, and everyone's too scared to do anything now. So that's that. So we have got to go a little bit back. But then there was stuff released last year, e.g. this album that I didn't know existed. And then it was like, oh, cool. I think you found this one and messaged me and said, oh, what about this one? I was like, oh, New Found Glory did a Christmas album. That's got to be fun at least, right?
Yeah. I don't listen to New Found Glory. I found it because I wrote like Metal Christmas into Apple Music and I looked through it and I was like, shit, I've heard all of them once. And then I tried, and I remembered that we did. Who did we do? I can't remember. We did a punk band last year.
Oh, we did. Who did we do last year? You're right. It was like an older school punk band. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, whoever it was, we did them, and I was like, "Oh, let me try Punk Christmas." So I put that in, and then I was like, "Oh, there's a couple here I've never seen before," and this was just happened to be first on the list.
Punk Christmas. That's a good idea because I often do variations on rock Christmas, metal Christmas, death metal Christmas, and stuff like that. And there's, we can't keep going back to Majestica and try finding content in that one album. Is we've kind of dug that trench, as it were.
Yep. I'm just trying to find the name of the band.
Oh, from God, who was it? That's literally.
Oh, there it is. The Vandals.
The Vandals. That was like, Oi to the World. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that was good. Yeah.
Christmas Time for My Penis.
Well, this is New Found Glory, and of course, it's a band we both know. But I also echo your sentiments. This is actually a band I've never really been that big of a fan of. I'm cool pop punk, obviously, and they are kind of legendary in that field. But they never really want to connect the two. I know a handful of the tracks, and they're the hits. You know those songs. They were played when I was growing up, but that's where it ended.
Yeah, I don't even know if I like you said, if you played a couple of songs, maybe I'd be like, oh, I recognize that song, but I couldn't pick a single New Found Glory. Well, I can now, but before this album, I couldn't pick a single New Found Glory out of my head.
Well, I've got to check because I'm sure this is a famous one. I just want to make sure it's by them. Yes, My Friends Over You. My Friends Over You. That song. You'd know what I reckon. It was big.
That don't ring a bell. This is true story. I was playing this album less than 40 minutes ago because I was in the car coming back from doing some shopping, and my daughter wanted some Christmas stuff on, so I was like, oh, here's some new stuff. So I put it on to see if she liked it. I played the first track on it, and she said, genuinely, 100%, she said, that's not New Found Glory, that's Sum 41. And I laughed, and I was like, yeah, all pop punk sounds the same, Rose. But anyway, there you go.
I mean, if that's her takeaway from it, to be honest, I'm not well versed with New Found Glory enough to identify it, but I will say this at the very start before we even get into the tracks. I thought this album was one of the most boring Christmas albums I've ever heard. Beyond disappointed by the lack of imagination in this album.
Well, are we summarizing now?
Well, you can say, you can follow me up on that, or we can just get into the tracks. It's up to you.
It fell off a cliff really quickly. Really quickly. I was like, a couple of tracks, I was like, oh, it's all right. And then it just went rapidly downhill and never recovered.
Okay. Yep. That's kind of the feeling. All right, well, let's do the tracks then, and then at least we can see what we actually did like, if we liked anything at all. We open with, I should say, it is called December's Here and was released in 2021 on December 3rd via Hopeless Records. So it is very, very new. If this did pass you by, you can go check it out. Title track is the opening track, and it's festively catchy. The lyrical content is fun enough, and the crooning is nice. However, the melodramatic tempo and lack of bite really doesn't work for me, and I was bored by the end of this track, which was not a good start for me.
I started off all right. I thought it was quite peppy, quite poppy, nice flow and a Christmassy feel to it. Nice vocals in the verses. Lyrically, it was fine. It was a fun little Christmas track with quite an uplifting vibe to it. Okay. All right. Well, let's see we differ elsewhere. Somber Christmas.
This is delightfully catchy, and when it ramps up, it's energized and fun. A lot of Christmassy layers makes it feel suitably festive, and I think the lyrical content and tone is the right amount of honesty and relatability. This one I do like.
It's a miracle if you look at me. Follow all the lights back home and ring my bell around my selector. Just remind you that someone's on your side. When we start things over, it gets better every time.
Yeah, I quite like this one too. Like the intro, I like the bells, little crunch of drums and guitars. Again, it's got a nice kind of poppy chorus.
Yeah.
Lots of little melodies, lots of little Christmas sort of layers and stuff like that. Got a nice flow to the song, nice little slow down choir section. It's got a lot of the Christmas, tropes that you want to hear. I mean, they are stereotypical of the genre, but that's what you want in a Christmas song. So yeah, another 2 tracks in, and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. This album.
Yeah, you nailed it there as well. Like, don't play that shit down. Like, what if you're doing a Christmas album, a Christmas song, we want to hear that shit. Chuck in all the fucking bells and whistles and everything that is to do with it, as long as it fits in the song, of course. But that's the point. So you're absolutely right. Holiday Records. Big fan of that piano and the pre-chorus. But the actual chorus does so little for me. I find it incredibly distracting. That chorus is beyond bland. In the end, I thought this was okay at best.
Yeah, I kind of came more at an okay with this. I was starting my downward spiral now. I didn't mind it. Like, there's nothing too terrible about this. I like, the fact they claimed to be belting at Mariah Carey was a little bit like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's got some nice vocal passages. I quite like the chorus. I like the fact the instruments dropped away and just left the vocals and the drums in that kind of build up to it. I was like, oh, that's something a little bit different. That's pretty cool. I didn't think there was much else to it though. Outside of that, I was like, this is okay, but even already by this point, I was like, okay, this is like a filler track. The first 2 were decent. Now we've got our first average one.
Yeah. There's a long way to go.
Yeah, was I to know what was to come?
Worse, next it's Nothing for Christmas. A mellow guitar tone, bells shaking, and isolated vocals makes for a despondent listen. Now, I know there's a place for tracks like this. There really are. But I tend to not care for this type of Christmas song, the despondent, downbeat, that kind of thing. And that alone then just turns me off this. This is just on a right track. I didn't care for it. I would never listen to it again.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't listen to it again either. Same things that you said, really. It's got a few things for it. It's got bells. It's very melodramatic.
Yeah.
It's quite a sad song. It's well sung. Singing's fine. The melodies are fine. Everything's fine about it. It's just that I prefer the peppier style Christmas songs. So it's a nice enough track, but like that's it. One time listen, forget about.
It's that, like, the whole melodrama, the whole over-the-top melodrama and sort of despondent listen works often in conjunction album, but you've got to sound really mean here, have a certain level of talent to be able to pull that shit off to make it sound bigger than it actually is. And this is not Newfound Glory. Christmas Card. This one fucking blows. It is beyond lazy. Those lyrics are awful. This was 2 minutes of wasted time for me. I hated it.
I can't find you, I can't find you, I can't find a perfect Christmas card. I can't find you, I can't find you, I can't find a perfect Christmas card.
I don't think I hated it. I don't know, did I hate it? I didn't like it. I was like, oh, it's a little bit more of an upbeat tempo, but it's got that way overly gushy message going on through the song, which I didn't particularly care for. Simple enough chorus, but like essentially it's a whole song about struggling to find a card that more accurately describes how truly you love the intended recipient, because none of the cards quite declare your love in the right way. It's the most ridiculous song ever. I did reference as well that like I do feel the pain a little bit on the card thing, but usually the other way around. The amount of times I've tried to find a card and I'm like, that is way too lovely, man. I'm way more indifferent about this person than this card is saying.
I want to play it down.
Is there not a card that just says like, hope you have an all right birthday? I'm not really that bothered. It's that sort of thing, isn't it? But so I didn't like this song. I just thought like it was really, really gushy, really, really strange. I didn't find it's one of these things. And actually, I find this in a couple more songs that come up as well. If you took away the fact that it says Christmas card and you just said and it said card, I
Yep.
don't really get an awful lot of Christmas out of these sorts of songs now, other than the fact that there's lyrical content that is telling you it's Christmas. It doesn't feel Christmas.
Because I was wondering when I looked at the track listing, I was like, okay, it looks like it's predominantly, at least looks to me, eyes wise, I was like, well, this just looks like it's original work only. So I was kind of wondering, are we going to get a cover here? We're going to get reworked covers, that sort of thing. But it's not. It's just original stuff. Santa, forgive me. I really want some energy at this point. I really do. But this track is not giving it to me. However, I get some strong Weezer vibes from this one. And I think it kind of comes from touches of harmonization and indie-riffic melodies. I can put up with this one because I was like, this is kind of like Weezer. I love Weezer. And Weezer did a banging Christmas EP. Go check it out many, many years ago.
Yeah, I didn't mind this one either. Kind of sung from the perspective of a child who's going to be on the naughty list. I thought the idea was pretty good. I thought they really missed the trick by, the fact that they're doing this from the perspective of a child who's a bit angry and upset about not being on the naughty list, about the fact that it wasn't a quicker song, because I thought that's what you would have expected from a child who's pissed off about not being on the naughty list, was a bit of energy and anger, and it's a kid, and this kid is very melodramatic for a child, needs to probably grow down a little bit. And also the whole thing, by now, it's like I feel like I've had a couple of slower ones in a row now. I'm missing the peppier start to the album. Outside of those complaints, though, I do think I think they fucked it by not having more energy in this song, but it is lyrically good. It's a cool little idea. It's got a nice little kind of instrumental and a little solo in it as well. So it's not a bad song overall. I just felt like if you said to me pop punk band gonna do a song from the perspective of a kid who's not on the naughty list, I'm thinking it's gonna be bouncy as fuck. This could be really cool.
Yeah.
I would not be expecting this.
No, I agree. But we thankfully do kind of get some pep with our first Christmas. And it is a bit of a celebration because thank fuck for that. And the rhythm of this one is a nice foot tapper. But that's about all I can say. That's about all I've got. I'm constantly bored listening to this album.
Yeah, this one I really didn't like at all. The bored with the style, desperate for something more up tempo, one with a bit more of a beat to this. It's still nowhere near as peppy as the words pop punk say to me. And that's the problem. I'm not a pop punk fan, but I'm also not expecting an album of fucking ballads or anything like that here. It's all pleasant enough, but it's also repetitive now. I think this track really just lacks a lot. It doesn't really have a lot of charm. It's very, very lukewarm and just average. For me, up to this point, this was the worst track on the album so far.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have put it the worst track so far, but okay. Yeah, because it's nothing stands out about it, but I could put up with it. Okay, then we hit what I always dread with any pop punk band, and it was a nearly 4 minutes long track, and I'm like, oh my god, what is that? It's Snow. The melody is nice, and I will give them credit that I could kind of picture and think of the White Stuff while listening to this. However, it is long, really long, at nearly 4 minutes, and my attention just wanes as it goes on. Not enough happens to keep me focused, even though I will say the melody and tone is fairly nice. I'm really torn in this one. I feel like if it was cut down and it was 2.5 minutes, 3 at most, I'd probably be praising it to the high heaven.
But up from its ashes grew a tree with a star that lit the night.
Yeah, I don't think I would have been still though. I mean, I was just having a problem now with the pace of songs. Really, that was it. So even when a song started, I was so desperate for something, energetic, just something that with a bit of attitude or a bit of, up tempo kind of rhythm. But so the minute a song starts, I'm like, oh, for Christ's sake, another one. It almost like I start off I'm not in a neutral position. Do you know what I mean? I'm already starting off down here. I do like the little piano melody, but this song disgusts me. And I now hate New Found Glory. And that's because it's just got some of the most sickening lyrics I have ever heard in my life. Proper vomit inducing, I would expect in a 90s Julia Roberts movie sort of shit, man. The worst one being part of the chorus, which says, I will lie in the snow and melt all of the cold with the burning fire in my soul.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Who are we listening to? Michael Bublé or some shit here? What is this?
So we might have a different perspective, because I do spend a fair amount, not a fair amount, but an inordinate amount of time watching Hallmark style rom-coms. It's part of my love. And at Christmas, those movies are particularly delightful for their pure romanticized cheese. That kind of lyrical content belongs in those movies, comes from those movies.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm just like, that's just gloriously cheesy.
Yeah, it maybe belongs in the movies, man, but doesn't feel like it belongs in the song. And it's cheesy if it's done in like a fun song where it looks like they're trying to do cheese, but this doesn't feel like a fun song. This feels like an emotional ballad. It's got piano, for Christ's sake.
That's true.
But
it is quite melodic.
Overall, like, I don't think it's a horrible song. Don't get me wrong. It's nice, well sung, nice melodies and that. The biggest problem for me is just the pacing of an album overall. And if they had literally just done a song like this and basically spread those first 3 tracks around, so it was a slower, peppier one, peppier one. Instead, what I've had so far, without knowing what was to come, was what I saw as like 3 peppy tracks in a row, which is also, because I'm not a fan necessarily of pop punk, what I would have expected from a pop punk Christmas album. And then it just went, and that's your lot. Now, get your hot water bottles out. We're about to do some sad shit.
Call it good timing, because we're doing this track by track at the moment while the UK, or at least England, is going through a harsh cold snap. So it kind of fits that. A lot of words said for that one track. Let's see then about Don't Fight, It Is Christmas. For me, this is a bit more fun, a bit more stylized, and a bit more punk rock. I like the lyrical content of this one. The instruments are varied, and the chorus is both silly and catchy.
Well, I didn't say anywhere near enough words on this one.
Okay.
It's a little bit more energetic, and that's very welcome. It feels a little bit more Christmassy, but overall, it's just another bang average song, and the early enjoyment for this album has long gone out the window.
Which, completely, it's completely understandable. My boredom at the start hasn't changed. And then we hit It Never Snows in Florida holiday version. Now, as a person that doesn't know this band well, I got very confused by the brackets holiday version. So I had to spend like a good 2 minutes I did not want to have to do, trying to find out why this was called a holiday version. And from what I understand is this song, It Never Snows in Florida, is an actual New Found Glory track, a beloved New Found Glory track, the standard. So I'm not familiar with the original at all, so I don't have much to compare it with. I did play both and could obviously hear the differences, but it did nothing for me regardless. It's reflective and sweet sounding, but I don't have that. I think if you love this band and you love that song, you'd probably get a lot more out of this track than I did. But for me, it was just like here's another dour, sad, sweet, but that's about it sounding song. I'm bored.
I wrote about 8 lines for this, and I was just rereading them, and the first 7 of those lines are just me complaining about the fact that it's another fucking slow one. And just said stuff like, for real, I wasn't expecting this on this album. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Especially not after that peppy start. But anyway, so I'll skip all of that. I think we all know my feelings of that. And then I'll just end my ending sentence was just like, look, it's well sung. It's got some nice melodies. It's got bells and shit. If this was surrounded by some more upbeat songs, I think I would really like it, but it isn't, and I don't. I've had enough for this stuff.
It isn't going to end well either, for Christmas' sake. And for me, it's one last standard effort on an album filled with standard efforts. The lack of bite, the lack of impact, and memorability of the entire album can be summed up with this final forgettable effort. There's some nice melody, and that is it. That is all I've got. I can't even remember what this sounds like, let alone most of the album.
Yeah, I agree. I also can't remember much from the album, even though I said I was listening to it 40 minutes ago, but I only played the first track and then I got bored of it and moved to a different one. I read the lyrics and I saw it appeared to be sung from the perspective of like a 5-year-old child, and I thought, again, like similar to actually the Santa Forgive Me one, I thought, all right, second one on the album, doing it from a child's perspective. It's a kid, man. Kids ain't exactly renowned for melodrama.
Yeah,
they're dramatic, but not like that you're thinking energy, it's Christmas. But apparently this 5-year-old is severely depressed, introverted, and just very, very sad. It's a nice lyrical content, I think. And then as the song kind of goes on, it becomes apparent he's not singing as a 5-year-old, but he's more reminiscent about being 5. So he's not a sad child, he's just a really sad adult. which, okay, fair enough. It's nice. I get that. Christmas album. Overall, this song just summarizes really, I would say, like, not even in the back half of the album, it's like 70% of the album, really. It's nice enough, there's nothing like I don't hate the vocals, I don't hate the melodies, I don't hate any of that sort of stuff. It's just not my preferred style of Christmas music. It's too sad, too slow, too melodramatic, and just not bouncy and happy enough.
And I will stress again, this is not us complaining about melodramatic music, because there are many, going back to Majestica, that has it. There's Rob Halford's stuff. Sabaton's Christmas Truce arguably has that vibe. So there's lots of great melodramatic music out there. But when you've got an album filled with it, beginning to end, with just even the ones that are peppier, aren't like standout, hyperactive, energy-driven, exciting stuff, that's the biggest problem for me. Also, that's really fucking boring. Gotta go back to that.
It's also boring. I kind of came to the idea. I was like, my problem is that when I went into this album, I'm thinking pop punk, right?
Yep.
So I'm thinking 20 years ago, or maybe even a little bit longer than that, 23, 24 years ago. And that's what I've got in my head, right? What I've been taking into account here is that this is a pop punk band who are probably also in their 40s, 50s. So maybe pop punk in the eyes of a 40 to 50-year-old is not quite so energetic as what I'm remembering it being.
Yeah, I suppose you do kind of forget it, because even I'm thinking of like Newfound Glory back in like the early 2000s.
You said like this is like what, last year, isn't it? So this isn't, they ain't, well, maybe they are. I'm making a lot of presumptions here, but I'm assuming they ain't bouncing around the stage with like black eyeliner on or anything like that so much anymore. Who knows? Maybe they are.
Maybe they are, exactly. I don't think I've even ever seen them live, like at a festival or anything like that. So, and I think the only one we go to that they might show up eventually is Slam Dunk. But yeah. Top 3 tracks then for this one, or top 3. Well, no, it's just 3 tracks you don't hate.
It's mine are really straightforward. Track 1, 2, and 3. December's Here, Somber Christmas, Holiday Records. Like when I said it fell off a cliff quite early on for me, like I really meant it.
Okay, well, I'm a bit more spread out. I've got Somber Christmas as well, but I've got Santa Forgive Me and Don't Fight, It Is Christmas. That's my 3. And that is December's Here by Newfound Glory, a Christmas album. We didn't have much good to say about it overall. That's just the way it goes. What do you reckon? You're a big fan? You want to school us on Newfound Glory and tell us why this is amazing and relevant to what they are these days? By all means, let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?